All right, welcome to the Nathaneal Podcast. Today, we have a guest who's turned pain into power. A certified National Academy of Sports Medicine personal trainer, a sub 2 hour half marathoner, my coach for my half marathon as well, and a third place bodybuilding competitor. But behind all those achievements, he's actually had 4 surgeries and had to crawl his way back into shape, figure out everything and come back. But he came back stronger at each time he experienced those setbacks. Now he helps other men do the same, drop fat, build strength, and take control of their lives. Marko Katanic, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, I'm really happy to have you here because, as I mentioned earlier, you have been helping me with my fitness as well. A lot of things, a lot of tips from you, especially about the running thing, which I have going on next week. So I'm really excited to dive right in. And so before that, I did want to talk about your story because you have quite an interesting story. You said that you weren't always an athlete. I wanted to how was that like? How was your life in the past like?
Yeah, that's right. My upbringing hasn't always been in the athletic space at all whatsoever. It was actually total opposite. I mean, I was always a chubby kid growing up. I wasn't into sports. I didn't think of what healthy eating was. I was just kind of eating anything and everything. And, I had quite the hungry eyes, you know what I mean? That was my upbringing. It wasn't tough, I would say. However, I came to learn afterwards that, this is no real way to keep going, So I felt like while I was growing up, I was always uncomfortable in my own skin, and I was never really sure what to do, with that upbringing. But coming into high school, I think that's all changed after being influenced by friends, some family. I see people leveling up in different sports and different mindsets, right, that I wanted to follow. So definitely having an influence growing up really made an impact for sure growing up.
Cool. One thing though that is funny because I resonate a lot. I remember you posted about it. You said there was this girl in high school where you liked her and you came up to her and she told you, basically rejected you and told you if you were if you were a bit thinner, you'd be hot. And that's the switch, And dude, I could say the same for me. There's so when I was a kid, I was also chubby. I also had those eyes, those starving eyes, always just putting food in your mouth. Then you like a girl, and then they tell you you're too fat. It's damn, gotta change that.
Yeah, that one cut very deep. I didn't think you'd bring this up, but you know what? Let's talk about it. Let's feel some wounds. This is actually important to know because I feel like a lot of people can resonate with this. I'm sure I'm not the only guy who's felt like this before, but this girl really made an impact on my life. And I'm not going to mention her name, but I feel like she has made a very big impact on who I am today because of what she has said to me. Where am I trying to go with this? So this is important to note because what am I trying to say here? Yeah. So with all my clients, they always have something meaningful to tell me, something that's, very close to them. Very when people approach me with their problems, they should always feel safe and secure of mentioning that to me. So I shouldn't feel any different now talking about it. So yeah, there was this girl in high school. It was about grade 10 or 11. And I remember, imagine just having a regular day, walking to school. You're already some kid who's already insecure, uncomfortable with their clothes, wearing black shirts every day, trying to meet and make ends meet and just trying to get through the day. And then this girl I could see her looking at me and she's staring at me. And I look at her, I'm like, what? And she's like, Marko, if you were skinny, you'd be hot, And I was like, damn. And I didn't know what to say. And I was like, really? I'm like, and at that point, that was the only time in my life where I was shocked. I didn't know how to reply to that. And I feel like the part of me that was so shocked was because she was so right, But it just goes to show that everyday life, people mind you, this girl is very extroverted. She didn't care about what she said. She had no filter. So imagine all of the people who thought of that but weren't saying it, That's when I felt like the whole school was looking at me this way. right? Now, being sexy and hot isn't about having a good body and this and that. It could be many other things, like simply just having control over your life, you know? Now, for me personally, now this might affect a lot of people out there, or trigger a lot of people out there, but for me personally, when I see someone probably who's overweight, fat, whatever, like what I see is just a reflection of somebody's choices day in and day out, right? Like what I see is someone who just like doesn't have control of what they're putting in their mouth. And that's how I felt like people were viewing me. So this whole thing sparked a light in me to basically tell myself that you're someone who looks like they have no control. So that's when I started, taking control of my life. And you know what? I really took her words seriously. And I said, really? Is that so? Well, let's see if you're right. So then I went on a major fat loss journey. I really embedded in my brain at the end of every day. Remember, if you're not skinny, you're not going to be hot. If you're not going to, so I just kept that going and going and going. And still today, I think about it. So it still pushes me through some of my challenging days, for sure.
Yeah, dude. I don't think that's like embarrassing at all, because I don't know, maybe anyone like in the comments watching this could correct me, but I think every man, I don't know about women, maybe even women, but every man, I think, dude, it's impossible. I feel like every guy goes to the gym in the beginning of their life because they just want to you know look good. Like that's kind of like the the root of everything, until you become addicted to it, because from you just want to look good, it becomes like, oh shit, gym actually doesn't suck. It actually makes you feel good. If you don't go to the gym, it actually sucks more to not go to the gym rather than go there. So it's like, I think everyone starts off with like, I'm gonna go to the gym to look good, but then you stay for the mindset.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, and at that point you were the one, you entered the bodybuilding stage, right? Like because of that scenario.
So what that did for me was drastically leap me forward. So I went from it was over 200 plus pounds. Mind you, I'm like 16 years old, 17 years old. And
Huge.
at plus 200 pounds, you're 30% body fat. Like, bro, I was big. I was chubby. I was fat.
Well, what's your height back then? I was a pretty big. It's pretty like
Not good enough for her. Anyways, so I went on a major fat loss journey. I lost 50 plus pounds, 60 pounds. And then I was looking good. I was looking lean. I was just in time for prom at the end of grade 12. So I was very proud of myself. And then I had friends who were in the bodybuilding space. And I figured, you know what? Since I've came so far, why don't I just keep on going? I had the discipline. I had the mindset, and I knew I can take this on myself because what I had was basically a base structure to build upon, right? I had no more fat on my body. I was ready to finally put on muscle. And so my friends approached me and they said, you know what, Marko, we're all doing this together. You would be a great fit because you already showed you have what it takes to stick to a plan and be committed to it. Being committed as in you can do this for a year, 2 years. If you dedicate yourself now, you can easily become show ready in this time. Now, I've also had a very good friend of mine, Anthony. He was a coach as well. He went to school for kinesiology and he was coaching athletes as well. And he took me under his wing to provide him a case study. And I thought, what better way to prep for a bodybuilding show than work together with my friend and give him a good transformation. So that's how that all started, and that's how that came into fruition.
And is that, correct me if I'm wrong, the first competition, that's where you placed third, correct?
Yes, this very first competition, placed third place, top 5, and qualified for provincials, which is this was back in Canada. So once you hit a regional show, when you place top 5, you're automatically enrolled to the provincials show. That's all of Canada. So regionals is province to province. Provincials is all of Canada, and then you could qualify to get your pro card afterwards.
God damn, dude. And what happened after that? I'm curious. So you're in the bodybuilding space, you're disciplined, you're hot now. Now, what happened after you became third place?
So after I got the placement, I said, sick, this is awesome. I'm obviously good at this. right? So I wanted to keep on going. So I reverse dieted, enter a bulking stage, and it was about between 6 to 12 months around that timeline during my bulk is when I had my first real medical condition. And that's when I had appendicitis. For those who aren't familiar, it's when your appendix becomes inflamed to the point where it might burst. And at that point, it becomes very dangerous. It could actually resort in like death, right? Because when it blows up, you're releasing like all these toxins in your body. It's something like a 30-40% survival rate. So after that, I had to go into surgery. I had to get my appendix removed, and it was very disappointing for me because I knew I had to quit heavy lifting and bodybuilding. So my prep went out the door, and that was that for my bodybuilding career. That was the first stage of medical complications that I had run into. And I remember it so vividly. Like I was sitting there on the bed, and then the nurse was like, oh, it's okay, like it's all gonna be all right, this happens a lot. And I was tearing up, and she thought I was scared for the surgery.
Yeah.
I told her exactly this. I told her, I'm not scared for the surgery, I'm scared of everything I have to give up, you know and she looked at me, she's like, oh man, like with like puppy eyes, she's like, oh man, I can't believe that. Like, like, so it wasn't even the surgery, but it was just quitting the bodybuilding career. However, at the bright side of all this, maybe this has happened for a reason. Maybe this really just wasn't my calling. So I figured, you know what? I got a third place medal. I have something to hang on the wall. I at least have a story that I can tell moving forward in life. So I was quickly over that fact, and I was ready to take on other pursuits in my life.
Gotcha. Now, this is where I think your story becomes even more interesting because you did get that and you did try, like after the surgery, the recovery, and you tried to bounce back, and then you had 3 surgeries again.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Luck of the draw, my friend. God was just like, you know what? We got to make this guy stronger. So let's give him another one, right? So what ended up happening was, I continued my life. I started working. I was an industrial electrician, and I was working for most of the time, and I was getting back into shape, right? Slowly but surely. With appendicitis, I couldn't do any heavy lifting for 6 months. And so that resulted in getting well out of shape, like well out of shape. I wasn't eating properly, I wasn't moving, I was lacking activity, right? But all at the same time, I was in the recovery stage. I was just trying to get my physio on, trying to get my core strength back. And then life hits, right? You start working, you get all the time taken away from you through a full-time job. And then I slowly started getting back into fitness, started, turning up that engine, right? Getting back into it. And I discovered road cycling. And so I fell in love with cycling. It was great because it was such a fun sport. It's fun going fast, Mind you, the hills are killer, but, going back down the hills, just makes up for it. So it was a very fun sport. I loved getting into it. It was a low impact sport. It was a great activity, burned many calories. And that was one way I was getting back into shape because I was losing so many calories cycling. But then I ran obviously into an accident with that. I had a road accident. I hit the ground. I broke and shattered my left collarbone or clavicle and completely destroyed it. And that's when I had to have surgery, had to have titanium plate embedded in here. And what do you know? Another recovery stage I had to go through, right? So this was very impactful. It wasn't the most painful accident out there, but again, the majority of the pain came from being immobilized for 2-3 months and once again becoming out of shape. So I turned the wheel a little bit only to just land on my ass again. That was a tipping point for me again.
Damn. I'm curious because, like, I'm trying to imagine yourself. You said, it really was more about the mental pain where it's like you can't do stuff more than the physical pain. The physical pain, it's like you just deal with it. But then the mental pain, it's like it's the voice at the back of your head saying you need to do more, but then like you can't, right? So I'm curious what you said earlier, where it's like your fitness, how you look like outside reflects what you are inside. How did that affect you knowing that I can't do anything? Was it like mentally damaging? Like, were you, I don't know, like what was going on in your head at that time?
For sure. It's a great point you make, because this goes back to the girl who said, you'd look skinny, hot if you were skinny. And like, I always tell myself after an eventful event that happens, I always tell myself, like, I want to make sure that never happens again, because that point in time, it hurts so much that, for example, the girl that made the comment, being immobilized for X amount of months, like you're just sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, what can I do to have this never happen to me again? In terms of like getting out of shape, having that insecurity, right? And there are all different strategies that I've developed over those events, right? So for like being immobilized, like imagine like the biggest pain is watching your time go by just before your eyes, like unproductive time is that just spent sitting down. And I look back and I think about the times, and it's so much time, so much useless time that I had to go through it and look back upon, So I started developing strategies like, what can I do right now that will have an impact on my life rather than just sitting here, right? So then I began saying, you know what? Like, here's a problem. How can I find a solution? So the problem was, I'm sitting down, immobilized. What can I do? My legs are fine. I can get up and go for a walk, you know? Like, that's the bare minimum. And what this is called, this is the start of atomic habits, right? Like, I began to make small impactful habits, that is better than sitting on the couch. So that's just one of the prime examples that I took from having these experiences, right? It's just to start identifying the problem and finding the nearest solution for that.
100%. Dude, I love that. Because, like, that's one of the things that, kind of build your character as well. Like, a lot of people, I don't know, nowadays fitness is becoming like mainstream, like a lot more in social media. But I remember I'm from the Philippines, like everyone is just like all absorbed with going through college and all that. But man, fitness teaches you more than a test. Like it teaches you more than going to a university. Because I remember those times as well when I had injuries, I crashed as well. And one of my legs won't work or like one of my arms won't work. You could just do something like go for a walk, do some squats, or like I remember when one of my shins had shin splints because I was running a lot. Only my right leg had shin splints. So I was like, well, my left leg works. So everything, like I would just work out my left leg. And so I was like, dude, this is so cool. I'm right-handed. So my dominant shit is in the right. Now I'm like dominant on both, baby. Like I can control both, man. I'm like a machine, dude. And it's like changes your mindset where it's like anything in life, like no matter what problem you have, you lose money, you lose like whatever, shit happens, you're just like, okay, that happened. Well, what can we do now? Right?
You see, in the fitness space, like in any kind of sport that you're into, you learn so much about yourself, right? And you start becoming super aware of yourself, right? Of your mind, of your body, and you begin to start pushing the limits of tolerance through that as well. And you start figuring out that what you're actually capable of in the mental and the physical. And the beauty of it is that you can take the same mindset for pushing limits and growing and becoming stronger, and you can apply these same habits to every aspect of life, whether it's in your job, your relationship, with your finances, because what you're doing is you're inflicting physical stress on your body, right? And I feel like what this is doing in our brains is helping us wire ourselves to overcome stress. Right? And your success is directly correlated for how well you can manage stress, right? So that's the beauty of it, because you're always under a stressful environment, right? And so you're always overcoming stress. So that's the beauty of it, and that's how I like to look at it, and that's how I've been able to build such a powerful mindset.
Hell yeah, man. Now it just reminds me a little bit of David Goggins. It's like when he talked about like when he works out, he's like, Yeah, and he's like, this isn't training for my body. Like, this is just training for life. Because he's like, I wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a run. Because after that, at least in that way, when you're stressing your body through the workout, it's like controlled. And you can like train. It's like you're preparing your mind that's like, everything's going to be shit, but I can handle it well. Now, when
Mhm.
I enter the real life where I don't have any control, I can respond well. So, yeah, man, I love it.
Exactly. Super well said, man. Super well said. I mean, you start your day with the hardest task. And I promise you, if you start yourself off with a run at 5 a.m. in the morning, it's going to be very difficult for something later in the day to stress you as much as that has, right?
Yeah.
So you're smooth sailing from there.
Yeah. If anything, actually, I don't know if this is what you experience as well. When you don't get in that morning workout, it's like, bro, I gotta like it's like you're itching to do, you know what I mean? Like you're itching to go to the gym. You're like, it's in the back of your head. You haven't paid your dues yet, bro. Like you gotta go.
You know what it is? I think it's like when you wake up, I have this buildup of just adrenaline and feelings that I have to
Testosterone, baby. Like you're just fucking
exactly output it towards something. So
yeah.
I might as well output it towards something that's beneficial. Rather
Yeah.
than, some people they're sitting in traffic and they have an argument and road rage and they're outputting the energy towards that. Rather
Yeah.
than you can take that energy and direct it towards something that's like beneficial
Yeah.
to yourself.
Like scrolling through Twitter, man, and like hating on people. Like
Yeah, exactly the same thing. Hey, man, that's the exact same energy that you're putting out. So take the energy and redirect it somewhere else. You got to output it towards something that's going to make good impact towards your life.
love it, dude. I love it. So now another thing that I admire about you, right, is you went to bodybuilding, so you went this whole like weightlifting, getting big phase, but now you are a marathoner. Like you helped me with my marathons as well. So and you've developed this hybrid training philosophy. I'm curious what got you into this whole do cardio and lift weights, because most people are like lift weights, don't do cardio, or like others are just running miles but are like super small.
Yeah, so I got into running over a year ago. Now, I used to run in high school. When I was big and overweight, I used to run to the gym to burn more calories and then work out and run home. This is like before I had a car and everything, right? Like teenager life. And I got into running over a year ago, and it happened like maybe it happened by accident, but not really. So I was in Florida at the time, so on vacation, and my cousin was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go for a run. Like, do you want to come with me?" And I thought to myself, I'm like, "You're gonna go for a run?" I'm like, I thought this was like dumb. I'm like, I don't want to go for a run. Like, I'm already,
Fuck
mind you,
cardio.
yeah, mind you, I'm in Florida. I'm already like kind of lean, kind of shredded, and I was like, dude, I can't lose any more weight. I thought it was stupid, right? And like, I used to be the guy who would like, when I'm driving, I see like a group of runners. I'm like, who are these
Dorks.
guys? What are these guys doing? Just judging, just straight up being a jerk. You know what I mean? Right? And so he was like, "Hey, you want to go for a run with us?" It was like 7 a.m. And I told him, "No, it's okay. I'm fine." Right? It's like, okay, whatever. They go, they leave for an hour, and they come back. Right? They're back and whatever. And then the next day, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go again. Are you sure you don't want to come? I want you to try do this." They're encouraging me to go out and try, and I was like, you know what, man? And I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, you clearly like doing it, so let me try to do something that you like. Like, I was just being nice. And so we went out for a run. We went out to this nice park. It's gorgeous, this great scenery. And then during the run, I was obviously like, man, this is kind of tough, whatever. But running with friends, like, it actually felt good. I wasn't thinking too much of the run. I was just thinking about being with people I knew. And I feel like that was what's that called? The compulsory stage that I overcame because you were with someone, you were with an entourage, you were with a group of people encouraging you. So I felt like, you know what? Like, I feel good. I'm not thinking too much about the running. And by the end of it, I realized I recorded this all on Strava because I have it for when I was cycling. So they have a running option on there. I recorded the run, and then it said that I run like 7.5 kilometers. And I was like, whoa. I was like, really? I'm like, 7K, like, that's pretty far. I thought to myself, like,
Yeah.
what a, because I remember in high school when we were in fitness, like a 7K run was far, and our final exam was the 10K. But mind you, I ran this run in 7K and I felt great. I felt amazing. I felt like I could keep going. And then I realized at that point, I'm like, what a great thing to like. I felt like it was easy. Like what you get in return is like you get to burn a whole bunch of calories and eat whatever you want afterwards. That was my whole idea of it. That was my whole idea of running, And after that vacation, I had moved to Europe. And when I first moved to Europe, I wasn't a part of any gym. I didn't have my bike. And I figured I still needed to stay in shape being here. So I figured, you know what? Why don't I try running, continue the running? The beautiful part about running is that it's instant. Like you don't need equipment. You don't need, anything fancy. You don't need any equipment. All you need is a pair of shoes and the great outdoors. What's the word for that? There's a special term for that. I can't really come up with it right now.
I also don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, it just, you didn't need any equipment when you can do it under instant willpower, meaning I want to go for a run. I'm running in 5 minutes. Like there's no go here, then start running, hack this, then go. Like it was instantaneous willpower, So once I got the fuel to run, I'm starting, I'm done. I'm out there, I'm running, right? So that's how that all sparked up. And that's when I started running,
And how did you get into what got you into like the marathons?
So it's funny. I never imagined myself to run a marathon ever. Yeah. It didn't even come up as an idea. I was literally, the mindset was this: if I run, I could eat cake. Like if I could run, I can go out for ice cream. And I wouldn't feel guilty.
Oh, dude, that is so funny.
But hey, it's true. I'm sure.
Like, I'm sorry, it's just hilarious, dude. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go for a run so I can eat whatever the fuck I want.
Listen, remember my backstory. I used to be a fat kid,
Right,
I still have hungry eyes sometimes,
Right. It makes sense though, we're hunter gatherers. We hunt and then you fucking feast.
Exactly. Hey, what's worse than that is eating and not running. So I'm thinking like,
when you eat, dude, you eat more fries than you take steps, bro.
Yeah, man. Guys out there eating more fries than they're taking steps. Like, come on, So that was the idea to start, and it was a great idea. I mean, and it worked. I was burning a lot of calories, but the fun part about this journey is I'm a goal setter. I always set goals. So, for instance, my first goal was I want to run twice a week. I want to run to the gym, run back home. That's my cardio. Great, perfect. And then I set new goals. So now I'm running every day to the gym. The gym is only 3K, 3 kilometers to the gym and back. So I run 3K, workout, run back 3K, boom, that's 6K. And it was great. And it was awesome. And I was able to eat more calories and output more energy. But then I moved to the big city, and then the city is located right beside the river. And there was a nice scene to go run at. You could run alongside the river. You could hear birds. You see the water. There's ships sailing aside from you. There's a restaurant. It's got a nice aesthetic. So I enjoyed running there every day. But what I found was this pathway was designated for cyclists and runners and stuff like that. And you saw other people out there running. And it was good energy. You felt good. I didn't just feel good. I looked good. I had good form. And I was always setting new goals for myself. So one day I was running to the bridge and back, and that was like a 5-6K run. I was like, great. I'm like, next week, I want to run even further. I want to see how far this path will take me running along the river. And eventually my goal became the 10K. So that was all the way to the end of the path and all the way back to my condo. It was exactly 10K.
Oh, really?
And that was my first milestone, because I haven't ran 10K since high school, since my final exam, and that was like a major feat on its own. So after I ran the 10K, I was like, wow, this is awesome. I ran 10K. I feel good. Tomorrow I'm going to run 10K again. And now this is where injuries began to start, right? Because I was so like over my head, I was like, oh, since I could do it today, I could do it tomorrow. But this is where injuries started to spark, because, bro, you can't just run 10K every day all of a sudden. You know what I mean? So,
except if you're David Goggins.
Yeah, except you're that guy, running on broken feet and broken legs, Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when injuries started to occur, and that was another drawback. At one point, I had what feels like to be like a minor meniscus tear, and there was a point where I had to take 5 weeks off of running. And again, this is where mindset starts rolling, finding solutions for little problems, like what can I do? So I began creating structured training protocols to strengthen the knees, the calves, the ankles, the shin splints. That was another major problem with shin splints. Huge, very huge. Like I remember running with shin splints, and I had that same David Goggins mindset. Like I was like, my shin splints are hurting, but I'm gonna keep on going.
He's
Like
gonna carry the boats, man.
right, I was gonna carry the logs. So I kept on running on broken shins. I can guarantee you I had a minor fracture in my shin at one point because I was not giving up. I don't have that giving up mindset. I just fought through the pain, but it made a huge toll on me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so running into that second 10K was when I experienced injury now on my knees, right? Just one side of the knees. And then I began creating structured training protocols, different forms of running. And then I was able to get back to running the 10K distance again. And then I was doing it more slowly. I wasn't doing it as frequently. I was running 10K maybe once a week, right? Other days it would be like a shorter run, like just a 30-minute run, which is like maybe a 5 or 6K run. And then throughout the training protocol, I was able to become more resilient and strengthen my lower half of my body. And I was able to keep on going. And only after a few months, I was able to increase the distance of the 10K. So I was now running 12K, 10K, then 4K again. And I just kept going. And one day I came back to my condo and I go to the front desk lobby. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Oh, she's like, oh, you're back from your run again, the receptionist, right? And she asked me, she's like, are you running the marathons? I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, well, there's a marathon in Belgrade. It's next month. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? I'm like, really? How far is it? She's like, it's a small race. It's only 10K. And I was like, really? I'm like, I'm running 10K like for fun, So
That's like a warm up, dude. That's a warm up.
It wasn't so much still a warm up for me, but I can do it. And I proved to myself that I could. So I wasn't nervous for it. And I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, this is a great experience. I'm in the new city. I never ran a marathon in my life. Like, might as well go out and see what it's all about. So I signed up for the race, and it wasn't too far from my house either. I was just like, wow, this could actually be very fun. I could meet new people, and I could get a little reward at the end, and just feel good about it. So this goes back to having the medal from bodybuilding. I'll have a medal now for, a running event, So I thought that was pretty cool. And I did that event. I ran it, got my medal at the end. And I thought, wow, like, I guess since I finished that, I guess the next goal would now be the half marathon, obviously. So I felt like my journey only had just started, So with stepping up to the 10K event, I felt like it qualified me to push even further, set new goals, and try out a new event.
Hell yeah, dude. And then you started working towards that, and you did this. You posted about it. It was an amazing run. Like your pace was like 4:30 or something, like something under. I think it's under that, right?
For the half marathon.
Yeah, like just recently.
Yeah.
Dude, what you said is like everyone was surprised, but you weren't.
Yeah, exactly. So I ran this. That was my second half marathon event.
Yeah.
So I did the first half marathon, and I had a goal in mind: just finish it, just finish the run, just do it without stopping, see how well you do. And by the end of it, my form was like deteriorating, like everything was like, I gave it my all, and I finished my first half marathon event. It was 1 hour and 51 minutes, so under 2 hours. I was like, wow, that's still a great time, but I was dead afterwards. Like I was cooked, So after that training event, I figured, the half marathon is quite a good distance. It's comfortable enough to endure until the end. Like by the end of it, I felt good. I felt amazing. I felt rewarded. But I set a new goal, and I'm like, let me run another half marathon event. And so I started prepping for that. I did specific training protocol just for that. And the next half marathon event was 6 months after that. So I told myself, you got 6 months of training, you have structured routine to follow, you have a nutrition plan to follow, and I just set out to it. I just followed the training protocol. I was consistent with it. And by the end of it, yes, I finished in a 1 hour, 39 minutes. So I finished 11 minutes faster than my first ever event. And I looked at the leaderboards, I would say you would call it. I came in top 300. So like 284th place out of like 8,000 participants.
Hell yeah, dude.
And I was like, wow. I'm like, really? Really? And it makes sense. Like during the run, I was at the starting line. Like I was right at the start of the starting line, like right at the front lines. And for the whole time, I was at the leading pack. There wasn't many people passing me after 5, 10K or whatever. So I felt like I was leading the way. I was running with I don't know if you would call them elites, but I was running with people who were part of running teams, right? Who were like a pack, right? So I was running with the pack, but I was in my own pack, right? I was the It's crazy. Like I'm looking around and there's these packs of people, like teams, like they all have the same uniform, the same Nike Alpha Flies, like they're all just matching. And I'm just running with these guys. I felt quite good about myself too, because I could keep up with like others, right? And by the end of it, I finished 1 hour 39 minutes, and I was blown away.
Yeah.
I was super proud of myself. And when I came back home, I shared it with my family. I showed them the medal. I showed them the placement I got, and they're like, "Wow, Marko! Like, wow, you came in that place." And I'm just like, "Yeah." And when I tell you I have to go to training, or I tell you, I'm topped up for calories for today, you guys take that as a joke. But when I get rewarded for what I've been able to put myself through, then you're shocked at the results. You know what I mean? So the actions speak louder than the words.
Damn. I remember, it kind of reminds me of, well, it's Mr. Beast that I remember it from, but it's probably someone else. It's like everyone thinks you're crazy until you win. Until you start, like everyone thinks that you're like cuckoo until you start fucking getting into cash, getting into awards, getting all the
Yep.
achievements, right?
You know what it is? It's you have to be somewhat delusional to be successful,
Hmm.
right? And like there's a saying in Serbian, like, after I do something crazy, like they tell me like ti nisi normalan, which means like, oh, you are not normal. And I always give them the same answer, like, who craves to be normal?
Yeah, who would want to be normal?
Like, why do you want to be normal? Like, you should go out there and vouch to be exceptional, right?
Yeah,
You should always become the best version of yourself, and that means breaking the standard, right? You have to
yeah,
create your own standard. You have to set your own bar. And people are often offended by it because they don't have the same mindset or discipline that I have, because sometimes they might lack that, right? So for most people it's not normal, but in my world, like, this is just what it has to take.
yeah, dude. I remember, dude. This is David Goggins again. I'm sorry, I'm just keep on citing him because he's one
My
of like
boy.
he's like one of the biggest inspiration for me in general. Like in my life. And I remember like he wrote it in his book where it's like in the Navy SEALs when he was watching them, like the general was like, in a world where mediocrity is seen as like mediocrity is the standard, the people who can be uncommon wins or something. I forgot like it by word, but it's like everyone just loves mediocrity nowadays.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially I don't even understand why. Because in Instagram you see all these millionaires, right? Like inspiration is all around you now, and yet everyone just loves mediocrity, which
Mhm.
doesn't fucking make sense.
You know what it is, I think, is people just love living in that comfort zone. And maybe they see other people's success as fulfilling enough for them, because they see what's possible, but what they're not doing is going out there and making it possible for themselves, right? They're
Damn.
only getting excited for the fact that, wow, that guy did that. Whereas they can be like the main character of their own world
Yeah.
and go out there and do that themselves.
Yeah.
But people like to live comfortably. They like instant gratification. Like, people are not willing to put in the hard work and creating that reality for themselves.
Yeah. They love to read the story, but they hate to write it.
Yes, exactly. That is very
Damn,
good.
that's a tweet, dude. That's a fucking tweet.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. That's
Yeah.
great.
So one thing that I did want to talk about is during that marathon, and what you've been helping me as well lately is making sure that you're as like you talked about, you glanced over it earlier. It's like taking care of the injuries, right? Like being injury free. And I think this is something that's not too like talked about in the fitness space. In the online fitness space, everyone just wants the six pack abs, or everyone talks about like different kinds of diets, but no one really talks about training, training hard, training smart, but also training smart with weights and with cardio and without injury. So what do you think is like, even in your perspective, who's gone through so many injuries, so many like surgeries as well, what do you think most guys get wrong in terms of like this whole training thing?
So I'm a big believer in learning from doing, right? I've learned everything that I've known through doing it, through pushing it, through pushing the limits of tolerance. And with doing that, I've injured myself over and over again. Like even today, like it's not uncommon for me to hurt myself because I always go out there and I always go hard, right? But what guys are missing out on is the boring exercises, the boring workout, like things that people don't really think to do. When I was hurting myself with shin splints and my meniscus tear, it was hard for me to find advice or seek for help from other people because first of all, not everyone experiences the same injuries. You might experience injuries that other people will experience, but the the solution for this is to already have a system in place to prevent those injuries from happening from the start, right? People are thinking like, just go out there and run. That is true. Like the journey of 1,000 miles all starts with one step, right? But as long as I can lock in these athletes to begin structured training from the start, they won't have to learn the hard way like I have. So my goal is always trying to have people skip the learning curve. The learning curve, I want them to just just shoot up and perform, But with that comes structured training through boring exercises of like really targeting the knees, shin splints. Like you're whipping out resistance bands, you're doing balance trainings, and you're whipping out kettlebells. And like some people just don't like that. They're not going to the gym to play with resistance bands. They're going to like work chest or biceps and like get that sexy body. You know what I mean? And like or impress that girl. But if you want to start training, looking like an athlete, you got to start training like one. And the athletes, they're not skipping out on any of these boring exercises.
100%. It's the little muscles, right? Like and they're the most crucial too, because they're the stabilizers, I think.
Yes. Stabilizer muscles, like some muscles, like you'll be surprised how many muscles you're actually not firing throughout regular traditional workouts, So you need very specific workout protocols. You need to be targeting muscles that aren't regularly firing. And it takes a very big toll, especially if you're going to start running longer distances, right? Because as soon as your form is deteriorating, like many other complications come along with that, like mechanical operations that are happening within your body that you're not even aware of.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, is there anything else that the mainstream fitness industry promotes that you kind of like don't agree with?
You know what I hate? I hate things that say protein on them. You know?
Yeah.
You see that you're going to the grocery store, like protein bars or whatever. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like when something is labeled like this is a good source of protein, like it's like a sticker that's stamped on it, like a reliable source of protein. It's like, man, that is just bullshit. Protein is eggs, chicken, beef, lamb. That's protein, okay? Or like I'll see recipes online from like influencers, like I'm making protein pancakes. Like, bro, don't give me that. Okay. Like, if I want pancakes, I'm just gonna have pancakes. I don't want protein pancakes, right? Because I know where to find protein. Stop mixing the two. You know what I mean? Because along with that is just genetically modified, ultra processed, you're taking something out and replacing with another and calling it protein. You know what I mean? That is something that is like shouldn't you like? I'm surprised it's even approved to be in the fitness space that way, because it goes against all of our morals. You're giving your body chemicals, which is like super counterintuitive when you're trying to live a long, healthy, fit life. So that's something that like really annoys me in the fitness space. Something else I'm trying to think of is there's influencers that give like very poor advice. Like people are becoming famous because of how they look, and people see how they look, but that's only the tip of the iceberg of what athletes are trying to showcase, right? What I'm trying to showcase is preventative injury maintenance for your body, healthy eating, right, and recovery. These are the three main pillars in my hybrid training blueprint, right? It's having, first of all, movement. Second of all is nutrition, and then it's recovery. Like having these three is all you need in order to live a long, healthy, pleasant life.
Yeah. I remember again what you said, right? It's like it's training for life more than the physical body, right?
You know what it is? It's we want to be putting more life, like we want more years in our life, but we need to put more life in our years.
Damn.
Right.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
Damn, son.
Yeah,
All right.
man. Like it all plays a toll later in life.
Damn, that's a good quote, dude.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing, so you talk about that, and you have been showing, that you've helped other people do the same. People like Nick, Ian, Sammy. I wonder though, because these are people. Most of the people that you help are people who are busy. And that's basically like 90% of the world's population. Everyone who talks, oh, I'm not like I'm busy. It's like, yeah, so is everyone else. Like you're not special. So what do you think is like the common thread among guys who get results and guys who fall off?
So what all of my clients have in common is they all lack structure, and they also have in common is not eliminating things that are not benefiting them, right? As soon as we begin to eliminate bad habits, everyone begins having an instant change in their life. Instant. You don't need time to eliminate things. Like these are things that don't take time. And that's one of the major excuses people have in their book of excuses is, oh, I don't have the time. That is BS in my books. I was an industrial electrician. I worked 10 hours a day. I was commuting 2 hours. 14 hours of my day was taken away from me. And I still had to commute and go to the gym for 2 hours while I was competing for a bodybuilding show, right? Mind you, I was young, right? I had a lot of energy, but, I went to go show that I was making use of every hour of my time throughout the day. But going back to the clients, as soon as they began eliminating bad habits and starting having a general structure in their day-to-day lives, they all experienced a notable difference within the first week, right? But everyone has a different structure, of course, like depending on what you do for a living, whether you have a job or you're retired, like everyone's different. However, the point is having that structure and creating the time for priorities in your life. So if you have a goal, let's say you want to lose X amount of weight, your priority is to lose weight, right? So you want to structure your day to help aid in that priority, right? You want to prioritize that, right? Of course, some people have kids, they have a job. Okay, those are your first two priorities, but number three is going to be the weight loss. So create a structure in your day to accommodate for everything. Write it down, create a line graph with the times in your days, and see where your time needs to be spent most and what times you have available for other tasks.
That's great, man. And that's like it's really a matter of like lifestyle, auditing your life, making sure that just like another thing, like work-life balance. It's like there's only life, and it's the same thing with your health. Like it's not about your gym isn't a separate entity where it's like you got a lot time. It's like, dude, it's part of your life, and if you don't take care of your health, dude, who's gonna take care of your family or your job, right?
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's something that someone can't take away from you is your health, right? And it's something that money cannot buy,
Yeah.
right? So you have to go out there and you have to do it. You have to make it a priority. You have to make it on the top, as close to the top of your list as you can, and stop leaving it for last or until it's too late.
100%, 100%. Now, what I love about that mindset that you do, like as you said with your clients, it's more like you really go into their, how they structure their days, how they, conduct their life, which gets you less of a trainer, makes you less of a trainer and more of a coach, like really helping them, get the most out of their lives. So, what do you think? What do you think is the role of like having a coach, someone who keeps you accountable in this physical and mental transformation, like health transformation?
So as a coach, you have to have daily check-ins. What we're having together is really more than having a trainer or a coach. It's having a friend there who's able to keep you accountable and help keep you on your feet when life gets in the way or when influencers start taking over you, right? And just having someone there to keep your mindset sharp, right? Just keep sharpening that mindset, keep swinging that hammer, and just keep on showing up day in and day out, right? And my clients and we always talk about things like whatever it is, whether it's something that came up in their lives, whether it's something mental that they're going through. What most people have are barriers. Now, what's a barrier? A barrier is someone like, for example, I don't have time. Okay, well, let's uncover what is occurring within that barrier and how are we going to overcome it. We're going to go through that barrier, around that barrier, over that barrier. We're going to dig a hole and make a tunnel to go under that barrier. Like, we got to figure out something, like something has to be done. There's a solution for every problem out there, right? So the biggest thing is overcoming barriers, but it's not uncommon to have barriers. Like, everyone has barriers. Like, for example, one of my barriers is hopping on this podcast with you, but I found the solution to come and show up for it. That's just a prime example. So overcoming barriers definitely is something that helps people stay accountable, right? Because people approach a barrier and they hit a wall. Like they don't know how to break through that barrier or find solutions for that. So maybe they just need someone else to visualize their barrier and how can you go around it. Sometimes you just need those second pair of eyes.
Yeah. I remember like in Joko, though, this is another like kind of mindset guy. He talks about like when there's like when he has this idea of detachment, but sometimes like a guy is in a dark cloud, and so when he sees darkness, he just thinks like everything is darkness. But when really he just takes a step back, he'll see that that's just one area of darkness, and that's kind of like the job of the coach. It's like he sees the client, he sees he sees his student, and he sees them, they're in the darkness, and he's like, just take a step back and you'll see like there's only one section of darkness, everything else is like good to go.
There was this photo I saw. It was a very funny meme on Instagram. It was like a text message of what a therapist sent to their client. And it was a picture of a bird in a cage, but the cage only had 2 rings on it. The rest of the cage was open. But the
Wow.
bird was just stuck between those 2 bars.
Right.
Whereas all you had to do was look around and see that the cage was actually open.
Yeah.
So it was opening up their world, their mind. It was seeing all the other possibilities, but you're just stuck here, stagnated in this one spot.
Yeah.
You're unable to grow out of that stage, right?
100%. So if anyone right now is like listening to this and thinking, I've tried everything, I've tried that, I've also tried coaching, I've tried all these things, but I still keep falling off, what do I do?
Well, then you have to have a really good look at yourself, and you have to ask yourself, did I really try my hardest? Like, did I really try? Like, look in the mirror and like look at all the days that had gone past. Like, did you really use all of your time wisely? Really? And once you reflect on yourself that way, you will find simple answers and you'll tell yourself, well, today I was on Instagram for 3 hours. You know what I mean? Or like, Like, for example, open your phone right now and see your screen time
Screen time, baby.
and see how much it is, right? And then ask yourself, did I really use all of my time wisely? Like, did I really did I really try to go to bed at a reasonable time? Did I really wake up at a reasonable time? Like, did I actually try to make my goal my priority throughout the week, right? And once you reflect on yourself that way, you'll find your answer is right there in front of you, right? And it'll only try to open your eyes for the weeks coming ahead.
The audit, man. It's the self audit, right?
Exactly. Self reflection and just being aware of your actions.
Gotcha, man. So now I know that you're launching a challenge which helps these people who've tried everything and still fell off. It's called the Vivid Reset Challenge. So I want to, the stage is yours. Like, tell me more about it, dude.
All right. So, yes, that's right. I'm hosting a 7-day challenge, lose 10 pounds in 7 days challenge, where anyone and everyone is welcome. Man, woman, you name it, like, come on board. We're going to be trying to do this once a month. And the point of this is getting to know my audience, but having my audience get to know me as well. And this is for people who felt like they tried everything, who can't afford online coaching, but wants to share their thoughts with me and have me share my thoughts with them. Because I don't believe that people have gone out there and tried everything that I have. I don't believe them. So I want them to come on this call and I want them to share details with me. And this is going to be a collective call where I would have 4 calls during the week and it will be a live workshop with me. I'm going to explain basically the philosophy of fitness, covering the 3 main pillars, which is nutrition, movement, and mindset. And I'm going to try to basically teach this workshop how to inherit the same mindset and how to help achieve their goals in a helpful, clever way, right? I want to try to identify as many barriers with as many different people as I can. I'm sure there's going to be people who share the same barriers with others and maybe help empower these people by joining the community that I have going on as well and having the community help each other out at the same time. So yes, this will be an occurrence for like every month. We'll try to standardize one specific time of the month, but the first one is launching soon. I encourage everyone, welcome. You know, you get a chance to meet me, get a chance to talk, and yeah, I will basically display what it takes to, you know, have these healthy goals, overcoming barriers, and getting to the point to living a long, pleasant life.
Awesome, man. And where can they find, how can they?
So they could join the challenge by, you know, I will be broadcasting it on my social networks. I also have the website, which you could probably find a description of this podcast and this video later.
Yeah.
I also have yeah, embed the link down there. Find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. The challenge will be listed everywhere. I have my name out.
At Marko underscore Katanic underscore,
It's
right?
Marko Katanic _ athletic.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. So yeah, man, everyone join the challenge. I know it's gonna be fun because again, I've been working with Marko, and man, I can't say enough good things about this guy. It's like he helps you. He's helped me with my marathon, and I've gone like super fast. Like I've gotten so good at running. Also my mindset as well, dude. One of the things that you told me that still resonates with me is like, you're tired. Are you tired? And I was like, a little. And you were like, what do you mean a little? What do you mean a little tired?
It's either you're tired or you're not, and you better be more not tired than tired. Like you're not tired.
Yeah, man. This guy will help you with your mindset, with how you approach fitness, how you approach life as well. And yeah, man, Marko, I appreciate you for hopping on. This was a total like master class. Your story was amazing, inspires a lot of people. And yeah, man, I can't wait for the challenge. I believe it's in June 1. Super excited. I'll be there as well, supporting you. And yeah, man, I'll see you around. Cheers, dude.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. This is a very eventful call. You know, I may have been a little rough on this call, but I was happy to be a part of it. And I'm sure we're going to have many other calls in the future leading ahead as well.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.
All
Cheers,
right,
guys.
Nathaneal, thank you so much.